When I began this battle, my soul was so damn fragile. I was looking at life through a fog. I lost my baby girl and they killed my dog. I was laying on the bottom feeling sad, thinking about doing bad things, raging fucking mad. I couldn't understand why I was chosen. Then it led to my rage and explosion. I am the one who can make this better. It's my job to make things right. I need to pick myself up. It's time for my biggest fight. Wrap your kids in the Bible. Wrap your kids in the flag. CPS is from the devil. Y'all know that it's a fact. I'm a father that went to jail. I cherish my daughter. It was nothing when they come for her and me. There should have been a slaughter. Stand with us. Make parenting great again. Abolish CPS. Ambush with the black SUVs. They come armed, they came for me, and they came for her. Stand with us, make parenting great again, abolish CPS. They took her from me, she's across the state. Gone for a year now, taken away. All these people who have written me off, I'm here to show my face and tell you you're wrong. I never was as good as you, and for the record we know that's not true. I'm not trying for a comparison. How dare you, you're embarrassing. I don't wanna be as good as anyone else. I fight this battle, I fight for myself. I am the one who can make this better. It's my job to make things right. I need to pick myself up. It's time for my biggest fight. I don't care about your judgment, I'm glad you gave us this test. But when your life is over, will your heart sleep quietly in your chest? I've got more life to live. As a matter of fact, it's just beginning. I've been given a challenge and my daughter is waiting. It's a fight I can't walk away from, a new life we are creating. So why you sit there mouth full of hating? Be sure my mind is planning on invading. I've got a war to fight and I'm on. I won't give up, I need to win, this is bigger than you. I don't expect you to understand. I am the one who can start over. It's my job to make things right. I need to pick myself up. It's time for the biggest fight. I won't be left behind. This is the time, I call it mine. Step out of the way unless you wanna play Trump. Stand with us. Make parenting great again. Abolish CPS. There is no time for bickering. The clocks are flickering. Pick up your weapon and join me. If not, go back to ignoring me. I will be on top. Pistol going pop, pop. Money falling from my pockets. You'll still be lying on dockets. So fuck you.
Well, who are we going to piss off tonight? Hey guys, I'm going to be your host for a while, and hopefully our fearless leader will take and pop in here soon. He's been really busy working on some things. When I say we're on the front line, we are on the front line of doing things. That means we are actively involved in some things that are going to that are working in personal cases on assisting with some research and background check to help some other people with their cases, just sharing the information that we're out there. So I want to thank you guys. I'm Gunner. My show's on Sunday nights every Sunday night at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, called Gunning for Justice. I'm sorry, Gunning for CPS. It's been a day. Um, so looks like we got here, and yep, there's our fearless leader. And let's let him know we've got it covered, and he will um, join us here shortly. Like I said, we're very busy. We've got a lot of things going. Hello, Luann, Vinny's mom. There's our big boy Ben. Debbie's on. Guys, go ahead. Anything else you want to come out? We got one more. We're seeing four as we grow. But guys, we still have a great show for you, even though we run a little behind, a little overrun. We've got a few things that we're going to cover, and a lot of this is keeping up with the constitutionality of things and CPS and how this all ties together. Um, what we're talking about, and a lot of things that are going on now. Patel just recently sat before um, Senator Kennedy on a subcommittee on an investigation of what was going on. And it was revealed, and this kind of blows your mind, that during the Clinton administration, that and under Hillary Clinton and so on, that somebody from Hillary Clinton's staff had a free pass to access the FBI unrestricted. And now there's a question that there's no doubt this has happened. They have confirmed it. Patel did confirm this. And what ended up happening is they're saying that somebody from the one particular party went in there and spread all this information. It gave away, there's a lot of things. But like I said, go watch it. But it blows your mind that somebody had access and then the way they used it, showing the corruption. Now, how does that connect to us? Well, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, under their administrations, made executive orders to actually give more money and more capabilities to get into Social Security Administration Title 4D. They incentivized it. Basically, the more kids we're giving you more money to get these kids that you have adopted out. Well, they did it. It was gone, but they really like the money for a short period of time. So they said, well, how can we continue this? That's where all this other stuff starts. There's a lot of issues that, guys, like I said, when we peel the onion back, our eyes are going to have to be opened. Okay. And what I'm talking about is slowly, because each layer is going to cause more crime. I mean, for what they've been doing once you realize it. And realize that these family courts were created by the states. Okay. This is something they came up with. But like I said, we've had a lot of conversation of, what's legal, what's not legal, what are the states doing? And the states are saying it's okay. You're watching a lot of states too, especially when their CPS programs or whatever they want to call them, especially Texas is real big right now and a few others. And they're saying we're now going to give stuff like Miranda rights that they have to read and all this, and we're going to lead the way in fixing this broken system. There's one problem with this. You're using the same fucking criminals, every one of you states that do this, the same fucking criminals that you're trying to protect the people from. They're the ones that committed the crime. Why you had to put that in there? But why would you have to put that in there if you just follow the Constitution? There's the problem. The corporation has been operating outside of the Constitution. which is why the only thing that they have power over is what? Codes and statutes. Well, then if you look under the federal thing, that's where the states convinced people, lied to them, and turned around and said, well, these things apply to you because now we can take and govern over you. No, you're elected to represent us to deal with state issues that we have, collecting revenue from ours. You're a revenue taker, is the way it's supposed to. You're supposed to be living off of what the state has a gross national product for. In other words, what does your state specialize in? Excuse me. So if you have places that are natural, like Indiana is well known for corn, right? That's their gross domestic product. It's the thing that makes them a ton of money for the state. Their taxes are supposed to be off of this, all the businesses that open. So it benefits a state. The way it's designed is to have more businesses, which is why the mom and pops were designed. That's the way those things, they didn't have a whole lot of big corporations, and they didn't foresee a whole lot of them. Now they've overtaken them and wiped out all the mom and pops. So now who has the control? Once again, and controlling the corporation, the big monies, the money flows. But our government elected appointed officials and actors are supposed to work for us and protect us. And they're supposed to follow the Constitution when they do it. But they're not. And we all know it. Now all these states are running around and saying, well, we're going to take and pass things like, this particular law or this particular thing in Texas, and saying, now the state workers have to obey the Constitution and do Miranda and everything else. So you mean you realize this was a problem in your state? Your solution was to correct the methods, but you left the criminals employed. Somebody explain this to me, because I don't get it. Excuse me. Sorry. It's pollen time in Tennessee. That's right. Spring's come out and things are going to start turning green and rain like monsoon season. It's what it does here. Makes great for allergies. But we go down this path and we think about what's been done over the past 40 years. And then you look at the Chevron doctrine being over 40 years old. How much evil could you get away with or manipulate this for 40 years, running wild and free with no change or no constraints, and you're getting away with it and you're making a ton of money doing it? But now you're so big and the country's grown, and in sophistication, communication in what we do has changed because we now have the internet, streaming, all this other, when none of that ever existed. And now we have this free share of information almost, worldwide too, to learn and take in. And we're realizing, comparing us, wait a minute, you're lying to us. What the hell's it? Which somebody noticed within the Chevron doctrine that went back and traced it and says, wait a minute, you can't do that. Matter of fact, to even correct it even more, you have SEC versus Jarsky that calls them out as these administrative judges, as that they're working within their capacities of personal, which are only supposed to be mediators, or basically, and follow the law as it's written. They're not supposed to have freedom to interpret. The freedom of interpretation is limited to SCOTUS and the federal courts, not the state courts. And the other thing that we need to realize too is these states going around, we have state laws. They do not apply to the people. The only thing that applies to the people is the Constitution. There is no other law in this land above the United States Constitution. None. Your own state's Constitution admits this. Go look for it. Don't believe me? Go look at it. Your state's Constitution has a part in there acknowledging that it still is under this. The only thing the states were supposed to deal with was commerce, not you and me. And then the other concept is well, the other upper courts can delegate some things to the lower courts. Certain judges are appointed to be criminal judges. In other words, where this is overload. But the issue is they can't adhere to these trials like some of them are doing if you have a constitutional rights violation. Now, let me explain why. From the information we've gathered in the research, there is a person in Illinois that killed a social worker that entered their home. Now, that person was convicted and tried for murder and found guilty. But there's one huge problem. There was no court order, entry, or imminent danger. And to claim imminent danger, you had to see it before you interjected yourself, not after. And that's what the Constitution says. In other words, you caused the imminent danger that got them killed. And the first thing CPS is going to say, look, he was violent enough to kill a CPS worker that illegally broke into the home, violating the Fourth Amendment, which the Constitution guarantees I can protect and repel any marauder. But it goes past not just suing them. Your officers, your sheriff's office, and everything else, and your courts should be fully aware there's a constitutional issue in this. And the state does not have the jurisdiction or authority to even have heard that case, because there was a Fourth Amendment issue that must be addressed. And a case like that, it does not have to go through a state court. Matter of fact, we were just going through this earlier of what takes in is called the original. So let's see, we've got, let me find this here and I'll give you the exact article of the Constitution you can look up. The article or the textual basis is Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution that explicitly, in other words, there's no room for in between, grants the Supreme Court original jurisdiction in all cases. And here's the part that hurts: in which the state shall be a party. How many of your cases that you're dealing with, how many of your cases are you dealing with to where it's you against the state? You're not supposed to be in that state courtroom per the Constitution because it creates bias. They don't have jurisdiction, but they're assuming jurisdiction. Hey, there's our Canadian Canuck, Jonathan. Yeah, and hopefully Darren will be joining us here soon. Like I said, I'm just kind of spinning on this. And there's been a lot of argument for what is a constitutional republic and what is a democracy. And I'm going to share with you guys a video that explains it explicitly. It goes back and it quotes the founding fathers. It talks, and those things come from the Federalist Papers, a lot of things, and a lot of people don't understand. To interpret the Constitution properly, you need to understand the Federalist Papers. That's their reasoning behind everything. To turn around and say, what were we thinking when we wrote this, and what was our train of thought? And there's a lot of that information in a lot of those things, and there's other ones that Benjamin Franklin had. I mean, go down that history, but they don't want you to know that. They want you to keep that ignorant. Because if you knew that, you would know what your rights were. But wait a minute. How many of you can still out there write cursive? Read cursive. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. So, hold on here. I'm going to get Darren a little thing here. Give me a second. I think he's looking for I think he's mobile, and he's going to join us mobile. So I need to get him. He's like, I'm away from my computer. Okay, well, let me fix that for you. And there you go. And he's got the link, so we'll see what happens there. But getting back to the Constitution, let's just get to this video, and hopefully, like I said, Darren, I was trying to hold off as much as I could. But guys, you got to check out I mean, it's gonna blow your mind when you watch this, because yeah, it's something. Let me see if I can get this up. What happened to us here? Okay, there it is. It's a screen share. Sorry guys, I'm a little behind. It was didn't expect to start that quick. I didn't have stuff. I had a bunch of stuff going on. Let's go to this here. And there we go. All right, guys. Watch this video here.
Liberty be safeguarded against the mindless, soulless tyranny of majority rule, when government is founded on the principle of majority rule. Jefferson answered that one, in questions of power let no more be heard of confidence in man, but bind him down from mischief with the chains of the Constitution. In short, America was founded not as a democracy, but as a constitutional republic. We pledge allegiance to the republic, for which our flag stands, not to a democracy. The Constitution requires a republican form of government for all states, but does not mention democracy, and neither does the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights. The Constitution is a binding contract, enumerating limited powers which the federal government can legally exercise, prohibiting it from exercising any powers not granted in the contract. It denies federal officials the power to do whatever they claim to be necessary for the general welfare. Federal action not clearly authorized by the Constitution is illegal, even if approved by an overwhelming majority of the people, because all the elastic powers of government are left with the states. How can liberty be safeguarded against the mindless, soulless tyranny of majority rule, when government is founded on the principle of majority rule? Jefferson answered that one, in questions of power let no more be heard of confidence in man, but bind him down from mischief with the chains of the Constitution. In short, America was founded not as a democracy, but as a constitutional republic. We pledge allegiance to the republic, for which our flag stands, not to a democracy.
Folks, there it is, right from the founding fathers. Now, understand this too, because of the way the Constitution is set up the way it is, and the way your state's Constitution is set up, you can't do anything outside the Constitution. You're not supposed to. Matter of fact, when you go grievously and with the intent to, it's an act of treason. And when you incorporate other people, it's an act of sedition and planning. So no, I'm not talking to people who say, oh, you're going to get on a watch list because you're talking about overthrowing the government. Wrong. Because those are elected and appointed officials and actors, and we, the people, are the government. And it is backed up by our foundational documents that it's up to us. We can elect somebody and look to a president or anybody else that we want to fix things. They are limited unless we, the people, come together for our voices to be heard. Now, the states are hearing the voices and they're making some changes, but it doesn't change the fact of what harm has already been done to our families. It's not even addressed. So what are we to do? And a lot of people get to this, oh, well, they had it easy. They had it this, they had it that. No, our founding fathers did not have it easy. It was rough. I mean, you guys know your history on your founding fathers? I mean, it's completely will blow your mind when you take and deal with it. Matter of fact, I'll give you one. Here's one of my favorite guys back in the day. And this is why, because he was so honest, because he didn't tell part of the story. The best part that he had after that was, and here's the rest of the story you did. And this man's name is Paul Harvey. I know some of you guys have heard of him, but go listen to some of the stuff he had to get some of the missing stuff they're not telling you that will fill in the blanks so you'll understand and be a better citizen. But check this one out.
And here is the documented fate of that gallant 56. Carter Braxton of Virginia, wealthy planter, trader, saw his ships swept from the seas. To pay his debts, he lost his home and all of his properties and died in rags. Thomas Lynch Jr., who signed that pledge, was a third-generation rice grower, aristocrat, large plantation owner. After he signed, his health failed. His wife and he set out for France to regain his failing health. Their ship never got to France, was never heard from again. Thomas McKean of Delaware was so harassed by the enemy that he was forced to move his family 5 times in 5 months. He served in Congress without pay, his family in poverty and in hiding. Vandals looted the properties of Ellery and Clymer and Hall and Gwinnett and Walton and Hayward and Rutledge and Middleton. Thomas Nelson Jr. of Virginia raised $2 million on his own signature to provision our allies, the French fleet. After the war, he personally paid back the loans, wiped out his entire estate, and he was never reimbursed by his government. In the final battle for Yorktown, he, Nelson, urged General Washington to fire on his, Nelson's, own home, which was occupied by Cornwallis. It was destroyed. Thomas Nelson Jr. had pledged his life, his fortune, and his sacred honor. The Hessians seized the home of Francis Hopkinson of New Jersey. Francis Lewis had his home and everything destroyed, his wife imprisoned. She died within a few months. Richard Stockton, who signed that declaration, was captured, mistreated, his health broken to the extent that he died at 51. His estate was pillaged. Thomas Hayward Jr. was captured when Charleston fell. John Hart was driven from his wife's bedside while she was dying. Their 13 children fled in all directions for their lives. His fields and grist mill were laid waste. For more than a year he lived in forests and caves and returned home after the war to find his wife dead, his children gone, his properties gone, and he died a few weeks later of exhaustion and a broken heart. Lewis Morris saw his land destroyed, his family scattered. Philip Livingston died within a few months from the hardships of the war. John Hancock, history remembers best due to a quirk of fate rather than anything he stood for. That great sweeping signature attesting to his vanity towers over the others. One of the wealthiest men in New England. And yet he stood outside Boston one terrible night of the war. And he said, "Burn Boston, though it makes John Hancock a beggar, if the public good requires it." So he too lived up to the pledge. Of the 56, few were long to survive. 5 were captured by the British and tortured before they died. 12 had their homes from Rhode Island to Charleston sacked, looted, occupied by the enemy, or burned. 2 lost their sons in the army. 1 had 2 sons captured. 9 of the 56 died in the war from its hardships or from its more merciful bullets. I don't know what impression you had of the men who met that summer in Philadelphia. But I think it's important that we remember this about them. They were not poor men. They were not wild-eyed pirates. These were men of means. They were rich men, most of them, and had enjoyed much ease and luxury in their personal living. Not hungry men, certainly not terrorists, not irresponsible malcontents, not fanatical incendiaries. These men were prosperous men, wealthy landowners. They were substantially secure in their prosperity. They had everything to lose. But they considered liberty, and this is as much as I shall say of it. They had learned that liberty is so much more important than security, that they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And they fulfilled their pledge. They paid the price, and freedom was born.
Sorry, guys, we're having some issues here. Um, if you look at that video, you look at what all those men lost. And we sit where we're at with all these nice things that we've had through the development of our country. But the question is what are you willing to give up if it came down to it? What are you willing to sacrifice for your freedom? And it's like a lot of people don't think about this because we think, or we're taught, for those people that go to fight for our freedom and secure our freedom are our military forces. And that's not always true. That's the away thing. But a lot of things too, the fight here, and they say, well, that's what FBI is for, this for, and that's for. No, those are things to aid us, we the people. We the people are the ones that have the power. The issue from my perspective that has happened, why it's been called the corporation, is because those businesses wanted to operate a certain way that came over here to America and to grow their businesses. The problem is with that became a lot of power, and they didn't feel that they had enough voice in the government, and they hated being controlled. So they began to lobby. Hey, do this, give you this. Hey, release this a little bit. Bob's your uncle. Bob. Even to the point of some really dark things. And if you go through American history, this is well known. One of the biggest things in American history was prohibition. Everybody knows about prohibition, that everybody was going dry. And there are still places that still have dry counties because they have chosen to. But the point is that even though there was prohibition, there was still a demand for the liquor, and it wasn't the poor man that was making it at home for themselves that they took. That's who they took it from. But all the rich, fat aristocrats and everything else, oh no, they had the women, they had the booze, and that's where bootlegging came in. And the problem is if you read the story, which is freaking hilarious, they even bootlegged liquor to the White House. Yes, to the White House. Go figure that the country's going to say, hey, we're not going to have this and that, but Congress has got as much liquor, and so does the White House. All the fat cats and all the politicians has got as much as they want. Well, Americans didn't like that. Hence bootlegging. Well, at the same time, those same fat cats had crashed the economy. If you look at the time period in history, had the Great Depression and the Great Stock Market fall, that these idiots had done it, warned the bankers, pulled back from stuff, and just made everybody lose everything. This is why some states, listen, this is why some states you can't get an allodial title in your state, because when that happened, the state seized or the bankers seized all the land. That's why you get hit with the property tax, so you don't own it, because they lost it to the bank and nobody could ever buy it back. Now, some states do have allodial titles, but there's kind of a reason why they have allodial titles. But a lot of that, like I said, people don't understand how that's been manipulated. And that's been done by the corporation because they lost everything. America. So what do we have left? Land and people and labor units. It was the only viable thing we had to trade, because everything else on the stock market had just plummeted. They failed. And what was left was just we the people. Then there was nothing there to operate. No jobs, no money. People still traded. And then the banks hated that because people were surviving on trading. There were several people that owned farms and this and that. There was one story I remember that their family owned the apple tree or the apple orchard. And I'll never forget this. This was and this man was like over 100 years old when I was growing up, but he was telling about how his family owned an apple orchard, and they would sell just enough to get by and pay their bills. And then they would take the rest of the apples to the homeless camps that were around in that area and give the apples away because people had no food and no way to trade for it because they were getting involved in the Industrial Revolution. And then all of a sudden, everything collapsed. And then all of a sudden, we had a wartime effort. And then all of a sudden, everybody went to work. And that's where the government kind of took over as the corporation or the states did. And so all of this has gone through our history to where they've assumed this control, and it explains everything we're seeing today. But that's why they want to tear down the history, the statues, and bury all that stuff so you can never figure it out. And they maintain control. Now, once again, you can go down the rabbit holes if you like and check everything I'm saying, and it's 100% historically accurate. And that's scary. It got so big to the point even now that the corporation, the states gave away the power to this CPS thing, the corporation, another branch of the corporation, and attacked you by violating your constitutional rights. That now these states are saying, oh, yeah, we need to do Miranda and make sure they're following it and do extreme penalties if they don't follow it. Everything they've listed, especially Texas, and if you're from Texas, look, every single one of those is a constitutional rights violation. Why weren't they following it before? Why did you even have to put that in print? Corporations should know this, but they think they operate outside the thing. And a lot of people, no, we're going back to the Constitution, to the purity. What has happened here in America? Over in England, it was taken over because of this and that by the government telling the businesses everything else. Now you've got just the opposite of the spectrum, to where now the corporations are telling the government what to do and piss on the people. We're getting the same shaft that we got back in England, only by our own corporations, the rich or the elite, a lot of people call them. It's not their thing. It's the thing is the government people, the people that were in the government, should have had some integrity and some respect, self-respect, and honor for our nation to know where not to cross the line. But turn on the TV right now on both sides of the aisle and you'll see why. I'm just saying. It's apparent for everybody to see. So, Ben, if I still got sound, can you still hear me? You guys got sound? Yes. Because I'm seeing there's no sound on that, or it just came through slow. Okay. Don't know what happened. I'll wait to hear from you guys. Sound, yes, no. Waiting for a response. Okay, good. Thanks, guys. Sorry, sometimes when you send them in, they delay on you guys see it instantly post on your phones or your computers. It takes a minute for it to update, even in the back room chat and even on the screen. So yeah, that just kind of keeps it on. Wait a minute, I know I'm seeing sound. Is something wrong? We've just had some issues with this stuff, guys. But we're talking about educating people, and we're all supposed to know this stuff. This is why we were giving federal money. The Department of Education was to make sure this stuff was being taught. And it's not. We should have never had Common Core. It was, every bit of it was unconstitutional because you took away, that's where the cursive went away, guys. Remember that? Common Core is right before or right after. That's right about the time they quit teaching cursive. And they can't read or write any of our documents, original documents. That's an issue. Why parents aren't realizing that and suing your school systems for failing to educate your children on their basic constitutional rights issues, let alone anything else. Why the hell do I give you money then? I can teach my kids to read a book. Matter of fact, all my kids would read before they even went to kindergarten, even preschool. And the mathematics, we learn mathematics every day. You do it in liquid measurements. This is why homeschoolers turn around and go, your public education system makes no sense. We get done with our homework paper type work or computer screen work in about an hour or two in a day, if that. The rest of the time we use real life experience, and you take the opportunity to teach. So it's not as difficult as what they make you think it is. And that's the misinformation you get. In the homeschool, you teach along the way. If you're working on wrenches, everyday chores you're working on. Hey, if you're a mechanicing on something, you work through the wrenches. That goes through what? Fractions. Okay. Okay, you got to deal with that, right? Add, supply, multiply. You can teach all this stuff at home. You've got 18 years to do it. Or not 18 years. You've got 12 grades, 12 years to do it, is what they've set aside to educate. And I've seen kids that, and I'll be dead honest with you, not just me. My wife will even tell you there's professors that notice this in colleges. They're so much easier to teach, and I don't have to fill in the gaps that they missed in high school. Wow. Even at a collegiate level. Now, most of those kids aren't taking some of these, I'll say the word alternative classes, and come out with a solid degree on something that will benefit them the rest of their lives. Now, a lot of them say, well, what's that supposed to mean? Well, a lot of women would take and, and this is a natural thing. It's been going on for time. It's still driven in the highest numbers. You can go double check it. Things like nursing, stuff like, psychology is becoming bigger and this and that. A lot of people are getting more into that that are women than there are men. I'm sorry, that industry is dominated by women. Women are taking over a lot of the psychological side of things, but there's a lot of people that listen, man. And this is about us humans, and you got to watch because it's just us. Is be very careful when selecting somebody that you're going to trust with your mental health. And I know we deal with that every other week on our show, but I want to bring this up specifically for why. Get to know a little bit more about your therapist or anything else, of some of their background, their belief systems, everything else. Why? Because those things drive the type of treatments that they do from that perspective and from their viewpoint and perspective, which sometimes you guys will be out there that have done that, say, I've gone to it once and it just sucked. It didn't work for me. It wasn't. That's because you weren't lining up with somebody that could relate to you. It's not a one size fits all, which is where CPS wants to tell you that same thing. Well, if a person does this or this, if a person does this, that, and oh, well, it's based off of FBI stuff. Yeah, in extreme cases. But you can't tell me you got three people that grew up in the same home, under the same roof, same opportunities, same everything, same situation. And one's a criminal, one's a police officer, and the other one's an attorney. Tell me then you're going to blame the family to come around and say that's ain't possible. Well, they had a good kid and they didn't have it. That's because they possibly taught the same way, and thinking every child is the same mentality, which why most of you parents feel like you're failing with your children. Your child is unique like you are, and everything, and getting to learn the quibbits of your child is, especially as they grow, is amazing to watch because their personality changes, everything changes, their food, sometimes their hair color, their attitudes and everything else they can develop. They begin hormones, puberty, all these things. And there's even cases, like there's one case, and once again, this is very unique, and I want you to hear out all of what I have to say. A parent had a child, I think that was like 13 or something, that was exploring their sexuality and using other utensils around the house to explore. And come to find out, these were dangerous things to be inserting into a female. And once again, mom took precautions. Hey, this ain't healthy. I get your point. I can't stop you. Let's go to the store. And we've advanced as a society to have certain things. It's not like you're applying it. You're not like you're doing to do anything. You're not going to stop the kid. That's called puberty. That's like getting little boys to stop. Hell, good luck. It ain't going to happen. Now, there's a lot of places that push a lot of that, but then here's the thing. They're forcing that purity culture there, okay? Well, you shouldn't have sex till you're married. We got a problem. It's called the Constitution. You cannot force your religious beliefs on me. Religious means what you believe to your core, not just about your God or your creator or anything else. The definition within that First Amendment is how you structure, raise your family, everything else. To turn around and say that's inappropriate. If the situation was different, once again, this is a situation that it should have stayed in the home between the family, between a mother and daughter. We are a lot more advanced. We have a lot more knowledge of sexuality. There's a lot of things that have happened, but we're not adapting that to our kids. But here's the other thing. Well, that's a bad thing. Well, then here's my rebuttal to that. Then tell the government, the FDA, to quit putting hormones in our foods to where they're having puberty sooner and sooner and earlier. And then you're going to take my kid because of the food you gave us at the grocery store? Uh-oh. Yeah, I said it. And it's documented. It's a legitimate argument in any court. It's like with little boys. Hey, just, clean up this and this and that. We're adult. We're more advanced. This ain't the 50s. These things are real. We have more education on the human body. You know what this has done to drive the amount of education about the female anatomy that has grown in the past? All of this? Well, now, Albie, yes, we have talked about this before. And the reason we bring this up is because we're talking about the Fourth Amendment and the sanctity of what happens in your home that is private, that is normal, and forcing a belief system that not everybody agrees the same way. It's a behind closed door issue. It's a Fourth Amendment protected issue. Now, if you've got somebody obviously touching a child or doing this or doing that, and you're promoting this stuff, that's where the criminal line lights in. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but there's no laws on the thing saying that a sexually active, now come on, let's be honest, a sexually active teenager, and if you say that ain't happening, you better look at the pregnancy rate and how these kids are getting pregnant and what's happening. This is a mother taking a precautionary method to an option to slide that off and say this is a family issue and we're going to educate, we're going to talk about it, as well as I would recommend, like I said, talking to your OB-GYN doctor. Those are conversations between you and your doctor and what they recommend. And that's always being safe, but understanding we're not practicing prehistoric thing. We're going to have more conversations that hurt and talk about the constitutionality of it, of where you draw the line and where you don't, because it's not just that, it's our homes. You have violated our homes and said, this is not good enough. That is not good enough. That is not good enough. And then laws are passing. Well, you can't take them from kids for them being in poverty. Well, bullshit, because CPS can turn around. If you lose your house, it's the first thing they do is come after you because you don't have a suitable place to fucking live. So yeah, that's a fucking lie. You see how none of this adds up? They want to suppress. Now, I'm not talking about going crazy. I'm talking age-appropriate education for your children. And this is every parent has to deal with this. Ignoring it does not make it go away. Having the birds and bees conversations with our kids as they develop. You don't believe me? Ignore a little girl that is ashamed to take and say that she has just started her period and she is freaking the hell out. Whether you're a mom or a dad, we have both had to deal with it, both sexes, more women than men. But there are times that men, and like I said, to do that, I'm going, once again, I'm not disagreeing with you that maybe that's thing, but for me to tell another person that is within their belief system. If you believe in abstinence or this or that, the point is you're not going to stop the kid, but you don't want the kid in the hospital. Listen, you don't believe me that don't happen? Go talk to somebody in the ER, the nurses. Oh, they're going to tell you all sorts of stories of people doing all sorts of weird shit. That's the reality of things. The conceptual is, yes, we would like our children to wait until they have found somebody to share that with them and not share themselves around and understand all that, but understand we do live in a world where others have other belief systems. Our Constitution guarantees that we're able to take and have that type of thing and still coexist without getting into other people's homes. But then the criminal aspect for us to take, and it's not for us to decide. That's for the Constitution and for the others to take and interpret of saying what is and what is not. And whether you like it or not, this stuff goes on. And yes, I know people that are ultra religious that will hide their heads in the sand and say this doesn't exist. Let me give you an example. There's no such thing as a hermaphrodite, a man and a woman. They're not born that way. That is a lie. I personally, once again, one of my children befriended this person, is a child of an actual surgeon. I'll go that far. That has been born with both parts. Now, a lot of you are saying, "Oh, well, this can't happen." Then this tells me that you did not pay attention in biology class, because people do have twins, and sometimes one cell overtakes the other cell and it consumes it, is where you get extra body parts. Now, other people that I have known have got 3 kidneys. There are some people that have even been born with 2 hearts from absorbing a twin. Some are still joined when they're born. We're going to have to come to the reality that this stuff does exist, but there are people out there that refuse to accept that God doesn't make anything but perfect, and that is an abomination. But it happens. It's happened throughout history. I mean, and once again, this is science, it's biology, but those people have then been shunned into a corner and ignored, which is where some of them are saying, wait a minute, we do exist. And there are some medical unique issues out there that we need to educate ourselves on, rather than sounding ignorant of saying those things don't exist, because they do. Now, and I'll agree with Albie. I'm with you there. But once again, it's not for me to tell anybody how to raise your child. So long as you're not hurting that child, your part of your job is to rear the child, to prepare them to live in a world without you. And you hope you got it down by 18 when they go out on their own, or they join the military, or they do that. You hope you've given them the most information to your child to survive and cope in the world they're going to face that you and I may never face. And their world looks different. Marijuana in a lot of states wasn't legal. In some states, it's legal for medicinal and other things for this and that. And other people have other versions of THC. I think A and B, because C is this. There's a whole argument, all of this, and people are going nuts. But that's the world we live in. And to deny it is one thing. That's your personal choice to deny. But that doesn't change what's going on in the real world and the world around us. The best thing we can do is educate. Hey, Tim. And that's where a lot of this stuff is going on, where everybody's got attitudes, because we've treated the Constitution, even us as citizens, and there's the other problem, as a liberal, or you've got a liberal point of view or a conservative point of view. That's, once again, we shouldn't have either one. We should have a constitutional point of view, because the Constitution is an absolute. It's being taught as an option. Well, unless that's how you got locked down during, the C-19 issue. And we may get flagged for that one, but did you not get Palaki locked down? Yeah, we want to take away your rights. That's what they're looking to do to us Americans. Outside influence, they want to destroy us. You better wake up, people, because they haven't come in. We're trying to purge all this stuff. That's what you're seeing that's happening. But we have to re-educate our mind to get back to the Constitution. Go back to your house. The only time I have to encounter you is when I'm in public. And then we have a general set of rules while we're in public to act. But unless you're breaking a law in your home and somebody has firsthand knowledge of it, then yes. Okay, Albie, I'm going to give you this perspective on this. One, I'm not talking about non-intervention. If it's an issue, here's the other problem. The charge of child abuse and child neglect is a criminal code and a criminal court. There's my problem. CPS should not be investigating anything. They have no jurisdiction at all. If you've committed a crime, then the idea is for the concept is for the sheriff's office to go around and gather the evidence, respecting everybody's constitutional rights, doing search warrants, sworn affidavits, everything else and stuff like that, and have enough to bring to a grand jury to actually hear what you have done and see whether or not they believe before the people there's enough to go forward with the case, which is why jury duty is so important. That a lot of people, they want you to do that because they want to stack the courts and the juries a certain way. You didn't get that, did you? But you all hate, everybody hates jury duty. But that's the point. They don't want people like you and me on those juries because we're going to be that voice of reason and go back to the Constitution and said, regardless of how they feel, the law, the Constitution is absolute and we cannot cross that line. So Albie, that's where I'm at on that particular position. And I get that, it's thought of as it's told to be that. Yes, it's because it's the evil side of it, because anything to do with sex and children is evil. Your children are growing to be adults and they go through puberty. As a parent, you're going to have to deal with it. Their objective is don't teach it at home, but where are they teaching it? Schools. Oh, you missed that. You missed that, did you? Who's doing the educating on sex education now? Not the parents. It's the schools and their perspective, not your family's culture, not your family's belief system or religion, such as purity culture. We'll respect it, and some that are a little free. But the big thing is, like I said, my son turned 18. I looked my son square in him eye the day he turned 18. And I told him straight up, I said, son, you're 18. You're now a man. According to the government, you're in full control of yourself, regardless if you're still in high school or not. You are 100% able to be drafted, everything else. The government considers you a man, a legal adult. Guess what? All those girls that are under 18 are now off limits to you. What that does in our society is they get a taste of this in school that you wouldn't get in there, usually in your homeschool experience, because you're focused on other things. You're just not going to take and deal with it the same way. And the government comes in and says, well, we know what's best. And now CPS is the same thing as forcing you to go to public schools when you don't have to. Because what's the first thing CPS wants you to do? Put your kid in public school, right? Where they're on what? Public land, where they can get at them. Because if they're in your house being homeschooled, there's a Fourth Amendment violation. Did you see that broadcast where that the report where that lady took and trapped her kid up in the attic, and he's like 32 to escape, and he was like all fragile and set the fire or something? I forgot what state that was in, Virginia or something. The first thing the CPS worker, the fact that there was a CPS report and nobody picked up on it, and this dude's been held hostage by his stepmom or whatever for over 20 years. And there was and nothing happened. And the CPS person's response was, well, they were homeschooled. If we had more access to kids that were homeschooled in their home, this wouldn't happen. Took that sick event and the spin for CPS in that state, that rep that spoke on that interview, spun it to get in, and Jonathan saw it, spun that thing. I think we played it on the show, on one of the other shows. Spun this thing to turn around and say, this wouldn't have happened had we had access to homeschool kids, and they would lift that and get into the house. That woman should be fired. Your mouse to go past the Fourth Amendment, to come in there, to come as you please and just check on the kids. Those kids do not belong to the government. They belong to you as parents, and that is constitutionally protected. And that's what they don't want to have you educate and to know. But for somebody to say that, what a disgusting individual to want to get into somebody's. What is your obsession with getting into the home? You know why? Because you don't feel safe. Your kids don't feel safe, and you fear the Nazis knocking on your door to come take your children. It's a repeat of history, because we didn't learn it, I guess, the first time. Well, now they're doing it to us. Same thing they did. Come get the kids. Man, what do you think some of these guerrilla things do? They go into towns and these villages in there. Well, who do they take? Kid armies. People that they can influence and get away from their families and change. Look, you're protecting your family. They brainwash these damn kids, and the same thing's happening. And your kids come back, if some of you guys get it back, and stuff like that with the situations, and they claim that abuse was happening. Where was the abuse? Where's the criminal charge? Well, we're in civil court. This is a civil matter. How's it a civil matter? How do you have jurisdiction? Now, hold on, Jonathan. I didn't call them Nazis. I said they had similar characteristics to what Nazi Germany did and the SS. Yes, I did. And you can look it up yourself. So, and one thing we've got to watch, especially on the show, is to make sure we're explaining things as much as we can. We deal with case law, and I know this show, Hunting for Justice, a lot of this is we're watching it come back, and everybody's feeling the difference. The states are feeling the pressure to change the policies and procedures and codes that they have. And to do this with it, like I said, the problem is you've still got the same people that were doing all the crimes doing the same thing. The only way to deal with this program or anything like when you have something that massive is constitutional rights violations. And they didn't even call them that. I'm like, what the? And we're going to pass something called parents' rights. What's that got to do with all the parents that lost their damn kids? What does that have to do with anybody, for all the people that they came in, no court order, no warrant, no nothing, and snatched people's kids, drug them through court, or you finally get your kids back with some people. Oh, this is a fun one. And they turn around, and the judge orders, hey, you give them back, and they were in foster care. Nope, judge said you got to give them back. Never get their kids back, and then the foster parents, the CPS, gather up together, violate that judge's order, and opens a whole new case in front of a whole new judge. And then you have the parents going, where's my kid? And oh my God, now I don't have my kid again. Well, that was one of the things we could share with them, is doing the fact the other order is actually null and void. Why? Because the original judge's court order wasn't followed out, therefore the case was never fulfilled. Go back to the other judge that issued the order and gave them explicit information and instruction not to do what they did. You need to notify the court. the original one that did that, because they haven't lost jurisdiction. That original judge that told you to give your kids back still stands. They would have to do an appeal on it, not a whole new case, an appeal. You did that to do something dirty. And it's happening all over the place. And these judges and magistrates don't care, because the state has given issue or ordinance in all 50 states and gave away your constitutional rights. You want to know what it is that we turned over first time, the FBI? Exactly that. The documentation of all 50 states, of their policies, procedures, handbooks, everything, proving what they had. That's why when I tell you guys there is an open case in all 50 states right now, they are looking to connect the dots. They are going through existing case files. I know this because they did that to somebody around here and it was connected to. And there's a lot changing in this country. And the same thing is, they knew this was going on because we revealed this evidence and turned it into the FBI, to the DOJ, and to Army CID. This was all turned in to the proper procedures, to the proper people, and they listened. But now they're looking for the face to the case. Everybody says, I got this, I got this, I got this. There's a lot they're going over. There's a lot they're doing right now. They know about this. The president's aware of what's going on. Why do you think he put out there the whole thing with that and the DOJ to clean this up? He has the executive power to remove every state judge throughout the nation, administrative judge, gone, at his power, because he has the power to do that. He has the power because under the executive branch, the Department of Health and Human Services, that's where the Department of Children and Family Services is. The president has the power to eliminate this with no congressional order or anything else, to completely wipe it out and defund it, which automatically shuts it down in every state because there's no money, and finding it's unconstitutional. They are working on things. They're hearing your voices. They're paying attention. The problem is we've got to get to the point of, when all of this pops, everybody come together and stick to just the specifics, not everything you've got. Just keep it simple, because here's a lot of things you guys don't understand. With a lot of your emotions and everything else, you have got to keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't overdo it. Go with the heavy hitters when you're doing appeals and some of the other things. If you're in the appeal process, do a case at a time, each motion when you're doing those. Yes, CASA over the borders, they are familiar. Listen, there's a lot of stories out there too, to where these kids go into foster care or into homes, and they are crossing state lines. The state's jurisdiction ends at the state line. As soon as they ship your child over across state lines, that is a federal offense. And they're not telling people that. No, we can do it. We have a this, that. No, because your sovereignty of your state, it backfires on them right there, ends at the state line. And they're not going to tell you that. And why? Because what are you going to do? What's the court order? It's in that state. It doesn't stand in this state. That's state sovereignty. That order doesn't stand in this state. That's why they're trying to push towards a nationalization of this CPS program, to make sure that they can cover like the federal government. State-powered agencies with the power almost like the federal government. Are you paying attention? And the states gave this power to them. They're trying to overthrow our government. Matter of fact, they've already penetrated it. Oh, there's a reason for everything. Money, money. Now we're finding out the CIA has turned on to the people. Oh, they're going through that thing with a fine-tooth comb. They already threatened to fucking declassify a bunch of shit and everything else if they came after them. Wow. Talk about got you at gunpoint. You're negotiating. We got you dead to rights. Something's got to change. These CASAs running across the border, trafficking. MS-13 was let into the border. And now they're dealing with all that. And now you've got one judge that was turning around and going, what? Hey, we need to let this child rapist and this and this and that stay in the country, is what that judge orders. Is like one of the leaders of MS-13. Bought and paid for. Gotcha, judge. Because anybody knowing that had half a sense, they were declared a domestic and international fucking terrorist organization. Why are you having that one of the head leaders of a head terrorist organization stay in the country and walk free? Once again, it flexed through it and said, yeah, that ain't going to happen, and we ain't taking him back. That was their whole thing. Oh, there's a clerical error. No, guy's still gone. See you, Jack. But yeah, keep up the faith, guys. I know it's kind of been an impromptu show. Guys, watch out for your mental health. Keep your hope up. There's a lot going on. Our country is changing. History is in the making right now. We are returning back to the Constitution. It's happening slowly, and it has to happen for a reason, because if all of it was ripped off all at once, it would hurt so bad, and we would be left crippled. We have to go in, gut these things that are here, either prop them up temporary and redo them and make Congress, rewrite some laws and stuff like that for it, abolishing this thing. But once again, they've got to have enough proof and evidence to actually bring it before, to look at Congress and say, you must, because of this. And when it comes down to that, that's where it's going to kind of, rubber's going to meet the road. You're going to see who's on the people's side and who's not. A lot more of that is coming out. And a lot of this is just going under. It's not the same as it was. But like I said, there's a lot of history that goes with that. Oh, there's people. I think there was another one. I think some of you guys that are in our Facebook backstage thing, I think there was somebody else that was told something similar, Jonathan, that was actually threatened because they had turned them over to the U.S. Attorney's Office, some evidence. And next thing you know, a member of CPS threatened them that they were going to go to the judges and all their people and have all their kids removed because of what they've done talking to the U.S. Attorney's Office. And I'm not sure whether or not that person got whatever on tape or not, but knowing this person, I'd say probably, yeah, they got busted and got caught on tape. Hats off to you. You know who I'm talking about. And there's a lot of parts moving. Watch your, keep your mental health strong, keep your spirit strong, do something good for you. Start focusing your life on what life's going to be like, when your kids come home. Don't do all of that healing at once. It's not fair to you and the kids, because here's the other thing. You need to be farther ahead than your kids are in your mental health healing and dealing with this, because you're going to have to help your children heal too. But guys, it's been great. Pretty good on time. I appreciate you guys joining me. Hopefully next week we'll get to, or tomorrow, see what's going on for the shows. But like I said, I believe Tiff and the Punisher goes on. They go on tomorrow. That podcast. I think there's some links and stuff to that. Hit the like and follow, especially on YouTube, for all of our shows on the CPS Breaking Network news station here. And don't forget to check us out for Gunning for CPS on Sunday nights, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are a little bit more organized for those shows over there. And like I said, catch us this week. We're going to deal with case law. Yeah, there's a lot of threats going on, Jonathan, intimidation. And see, that's the problem with me. What are you going to do? Kill me? I've already been given a death sentence. I've got nothing. Once again, what are you going to take? You've stripped everything else. But listen, keep faith. And I'm going to leave you guys with this. And this is a quote from Thomas Jefferson. And you'll read the highlighted part, and we're going to close the show with this. Check this out, the entire letter for the Tree of Liberty from Thomas Jefferson. Guys, have a great night. We'll see you next time.